Well, Republican senators warn that timing is running out for Judge Brett Kavanaugh's accuser, Professor Christine Blasey Ford, to agree to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley told Ford's lawyers the burden is on them and that they have until 10 a.m. on Friday to say whether or not Ford will testify. The hearing would include just two witnesses, Ford and Kavanaugh. Ford's lawyer called the process, quote, not a fair or good faith investigation, in part because the GOP has rejected the idea of a wider nonpartisan probe. Ford wants the FBI to look into the issue to prove that she is telling the truth when she says Brett Kavanaugh tried to rape her in high school. And through her lawyers, she also expressed concern for her own safety. She's received death threats and has been forced from her home since coming forward. Meanwhile, today, Brett Kavanaugh was spotted heading into the White House. The president's aides have reportedly been helping him prepare for his testimony. Daniel Lippman is a reporter for Politico and co-author of the Politico Playbook. He joins us now. So tell me this, if Blasey Ford doesn't testify, what exactly is the plan on Capitol Hill at that point?
I think that almost would guarantee that Kavanaugh would get confirmed because most Republican senators, they would say, well, this person is not willing to step up and that Kavanaugh, has otherwise not done anything wrong. We don't know if we believe this woman or not. If she does testify, and I am in that camp of people who think that she ultimately will make it to Washington for that Monday hearing, that could be very damaging to Kavanaugh, especially because President Trump, he said earlier this week, if she's credible, then we'll have to make some decisions. So that doesn't sound very good for Kavanaugh. Just all depends on whether she wants to step up to the plate.
Dan, do you think it's risky? Senator Grassley set this Friday deadline. Is it risky for Republicans to put so much pressure on Dr. Ford?
I think it almost looks like they're bullying the victim. But they also feel like this emerged very late in the process, that they were on course to confirm Kavanaugh, and that she has a responsibility to tell the American people her story. Given that, the other eyewitness in the room, Mark Judge, who was kind of participating in this, he may not be the most reliable person who, when he said, well, it didn't happen. And so I think Democrats also want her to testify, too. They just don't want these time limits, these time constraints. And so I think Democrats would be very happy if she comes up on Monday. So it's not just Republicans who want her to testify.
I get the fact that the Republicans want to get this nomination through, but why the rush? Why not let it play out for a few more weeks, have her testify, maybe have some sort of independent probe looking into this?
That's the argument Democrats are making. And I think the only time constraint that Republicans are thinking about is the midterm elections. And if they lose the Senate, then it's very hard to put a new person through. And so they are really not budging on this time issue. They view it as critical to getting a conservative justice through, because if Kavanaugh has to step aside, then they have to put someone new forward. In terms of that investigation that her lawyer has called for to be run out of the FBI, that only can take, a couple days. And so that's not going to be a weeks-long thing. Republicans are just worried that if you go to the FBI and this woman gets interviewed by them, then if they assess her as credible, then it kind of game over for Republicans.
We know that Kavanaugh's been spotted at the White House multiple times this week. Do we know what he was doing there? And if he feels so confident that he's innocent, why not call for an investigation?
That's a great point. They probably should call for an investigation, in order to get to the bottom of everything. But at the White House right now, he's preparing for this hearing, which may still go through even if she doesn't come up, because Democrats want to question Kavanaugh. And so he's been telling his White House friends and colleagues about his dating life as a teenager, about the parties he went to, the drinking alcohol, and so it's kind of must not be comfortable for him. And I probably would guarantee that she's prepping as well, just in case she does feel like testifying. She needs to be ready as well. And so everyone's kind of doing those murder boards in terms of getting ready for this blockbuster potential hearing.
I want to ask you about some other news the president's also been tweeting about. He slammed the spending bill today, questioning the lack of money for his border wall. We know the government funding deadline is actually September 30th. It's coming up. So is it likely that we'll possibly see a shutdown and a fight ahead of midterms?
I don't think we're going to have a government shutdown, especially since the midterm elections are only a month and a half away, a little more than that. And so it's not in the interest of Republicans to shut this government down. It would be very embarrassing for them. And so, besides Trump's tweet this morning about where's the money for the border wall, you don't see a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill who really care about this. They're much more concerned about saving their own skins for their reelection and not getting every dollar that they want on border security. And so I would expect that this to be another, shutdown showdown, as we call it at Politico, which doesn't actually ultimately result in a government shutdown.
So if we go through the motions of a shutdown showdown, who are the big winners and who are the losers, Daniel?
I think the losers are the American people. There are more important things to care about than shutting the government down. You should have this should all be legislated properly. There's a budget appropriations process to do this and to think about the right levels of spending. In terms of the winners, I think Trump feels like he should stand up for his base, and they really want to spend as much money on border security and cracking down on immigration. And so I think the Republicans are also losers if they talk too much about this. So I think they will just ram something down Trump's throat, and he will likely vote he'll sign that spending law into practice.
Before you go, Dan, I want to ask you about a new Politico report. It says that Democratic operatives are growing a little bit worried that Republicans are going to be gearing up for some sort of document dump on the Russia probe ahead of midterms. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Sure. So Trump is about to declassify a bunch of these documents related to how the FBI first started investigating him and his Trump campaign's ties with Russia back in 2016. He thinks that they didn't have enough evidence, that they were using the dossier too much. And Democrats are worried that there's going to be something in these documents that would embarrass them or embarrass the FBI. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I think there's a real concern that just like in 2016, you might have an October surprise, which would help Republicans. And Democrats don't think that intelligence should be used as a political weapon where you declassify things at the certain moments in time to maximize political advantage.
All right, Daniel Lippman, so grateful you could join us, Dan.
Thank you.